I think it's just the glare on it. I think we're good to go if you just want to start. Wait, let me just hit record.
Call this special session to order.
Okay. Let's go. So I gave everybody, the packet for today. I did get Jack emailed me fire department budget request yesterday morning, so I kind of spent, majority of the day putting it in our format and looking to see what they were looking at. So do we want to kind of just go through their requests? So under the salary section, keep the fire chief at 18 and then take the 2 assistant chiefs from 65 to 7.
And I had a question about that. Did we not say last year that we were going to try to increase the chief, the other 2 chiefs?
Yes, we did. I think that was sort of a planned thing to bump them up a little bit. And they still continue to get the call reimbursement.
Okay, so we have bumped them up below that this year.
They're getting, yes, we had bumped them up from last year to this year. And then the other thing that we were doing is we were giving them the call reimbursement this year. They previously did not get that.
Right.
So they're in addition to getting this stipend. The other thing is that we had, when the main paid family leave act thing all came into play and Bernstein Shore, what was it? We were going through something because I had Bernstein Shore that called me to kind of go over our salaries. I think it was for something else.
Oh, I think that was something to do with the personnel policy stuff.
It was for the personnel policy. Anyways, she called me and we kind of went through all of our people and she said, yeah, the fire chief is not a stipend position. That's too much money to be considered a stipend. So we are going to start paying him bi-weekly. And we'll start that with July 1st. I mean, we'll start with the beginning of our fiscal year. It really doesn't change anything. I mean, it's just that he'll be getting a bi-weekly paycheck as opposed to a quarterly, what we considered stipend. But she said, yeah, $18,000 is not a stipend. That's a paycheck.
Okay, and we had said we were doing this partly because we wanted to start to prepare for the paid positions. And so then next year we can look at raising the other chiefs all that number.
Yeah, and I mean, we also don't know what's gonna happen, I mean, things can change from year to year. We may be looking at a completely different story next year, so,
Okay.
but this was what was sort of handed our way, for this year. And then, of course, in the, FICA Social Security, we also had to add in that maybe so it's the 8.15% of the salaries line. I mean, that's a given thing.
And that's including main family?
Yes, yeah. The Medicare and Social Security is the 7.65, and then it's an additional 0.5% is paid by the employer, and 0.5% is paid by the employee. Under department maintenance, and Jack had gone through under department maintenance, that's not changing a whole lot. Going up a little bit, and that was, I think basically just, a little bit in increases in costs. And I'm a little bit, and I think probably everybody is. I mean, we don't know what the cost of supplies is gonna happen because, I mean, everything with it's gonna work. Yeah, so
I have no idea.
I don't know. I actually ordered myself a dryer last night because I know I'm gonna need one. I was gonna wait for a while, but I decided now.
Well, right, is there? I'm just wondering, are there things that they need that we haven't included or perhaps that we should do?
Jack has, if you look at this is a 12% increase in the operating. So
Okay.
I would like to think that
He's already.
Jack knows that, if all of a sudden something ends up being more expensive, then they've got to figure out where the money is what they're not gonna get, or they do have their capital equipment account. Which there's money in there, which they could, if it's something they really need, they could take from there. I mean, we do the same thing in town hall and public works, transfer station, I mean, everything. If all of a sudden something happens during the year in our budget. And we end up going over on something and you say, okay, for the rest of the year, we've got to sort of pare back on some other things and be careful. And that's what's gotta be done.
All right.
The volunteer reimbursements, and this, I mean, for example, through February 22nd, we've already paid out over $19,000.
Yeah, I was noticing that. Do you have a sense of where we'll land?
And, well, Jack, I mean, he said initially he had kind of started at 25 or 26 here. And then he pared it back to 24. Because he really didn't want to be over the 12% operating costs. I mean, the other place that, you gotta remember is that if something really happened, then you have your contingency account of your $70,000, that money can be taken from there if it really needs to be. I mean, in fiscal year 24, we spent 23. And it's a per incident charge. Those amounts haven't changed, so we always hope for fewer incidents, but we don't know.
Right, this is all the cost of doing business.
That's right.
Right.
I was reading the description below last night. In what fiscal year did we start?
I believe it was
changing the
22. I think it was
That's what
22.
I was wondering, just where we saw some increases, just to see if that's where it was
Yeah.
happening, just
Yeah.
to have a
Yeah.
better sense.
Yeah, and 22 was when we changed to the tiered system.
And I think that's important for people to understand that the increased costs are, I am assuming, due largely to this tier change, which is fine. And not because we have more volunteers,
Well,
right, in terms of,
correct.
the
The
costs.
other thing is that, I'm trying to think. A lot of our calls are also the first responder for ambulance calls where they get there first. I mean, we have
Yes.
more calls for that than we
Sure.
do anything
Right, we have
else.
more medical calls.
And I almost think that those, if you look at, if we went back and in the town report, fire department always puts how many there are. And I have noticed over the years that those number of calls increases all the time.
Mhm.
So I think we're getting more calls,
Mhm.
than first responders.
Yeah, to Amy's point, though, I think it would be worth that. Just explain it through the system so that people understand. And because I don't know that the residents understand or know about this.
Right, I mean, if someone were to look
Well,
historically
either
back on this.
that or I mean, the other thing is there's also, in town report, we could ask Randy to include that in his report for town report, or maybe, I know Tom helps him out with that.
Right.
I know, I know, so maybe you could suggest that
Yeah.
to Tom, that,
Yeah.
that was one of the things that might be helpful in there to just sort of touch upon that.
That would be good.
I try to sort of have departments touch on things in written format, because I really hope that people read town report before they come to town meeting. I mean, they should.
They should, and you are.
So that they know what they're
Yeah.
voting
Well,
on.
and we can direct them back to it and
Correct.
say.
And I think that's good, that at
Confused
town,
about that, go back to them.
Yeah.
and I think that's good, that at town meeting, when somebody asks a question about it, and you can say, oh, well, if you go to the fire department reports, you'll see where they said that, and then that way people say, oh, okay, yeah.
Right, because even like my first glance at this last night, and I was just kind of looking at it, the historic, and I'm like, do we have that many more volunteers? And I'm like, there, yeah.
Yeah, it's typically
So, like,
40, I mean, we
we
typically
have
have, we typically have 40.
Yeah, Yeah.
And I mean, not all of them at every incident.
oh, no, and largely when they know what the incident is, they also make a concerted effort to not overwhelm the scene.
Right.
It does
If
not make
it's,
sense.
I mean, for
Anyway.
example, like even yesterday, when they had an incident
Yeah,
out on the Castine Road.
Right.
And I mean, Scotty went out there, he knew what it was, but he went out there and he said, okay, enough people here, and he,
exactly,
Oh,
the
he
same
left.
medical calls, yeah, it's just not always needed.
yeah.
Okay,
Firehouse maintenance, I mean, they're really trying to do the bare minimum there because hopefully it won't be too long, but there are kind of some things that they have to keep up with, so. I mean, you know, less than $4,000, I mean, I'm not,
that's a real.
yeah, I mean, it's, they're only doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And utilities, and I usually go through the utilities and kind of, you know, give it to Jack, and it's based on, you know. How many gallons of fuel oil do they typically use every year? You know, we sort of guess at what the pricing is gonna be. Electricity did go up this year, and the reason that electricity is going up is because when they moved the repeater out at the transfer station, they actually had to have another electrical line that got hooked up to the tower. Before, they were teaching it from the municipal garage.
Oh,
And now it's there, and I mean, like Jack looked at me and he said, well, how much is it? He says, it's only about probably 5 kilowatts, a month. And I said, yeah, but there's the minimum charge of month. So,
Yeah.
there's that. So anyways, but, these are all just what,
Cost to open the door.
yeah, I mean, these are what the utilities are. Vehicle maintenance, and I did, I saw that this had gone down a little bit, and like that is sort of in, where they're getting the new vehicle. And they'll be using the newer vehicle more and hopefully using the other ones less, so they're thinking that they will be able to, so that was sort of the idea behind that. Training. This did get put up a little bit, and this was mostly in the schools and training. I think they typically have more, and it's the academy students who are willing to take firefighter, marine firefighter too. We try to get them to take it when they're freshmen or the early part of their sophomore years. That way we have 4 years out of it. And this is specifically for the firefighter side of it. The next page, which is the first responder EMS training. And under, their bond in this went in training and licensing. If we have somebody who gets their EMT, what we'll do. Reimbursement back to them, and we do it over 3 years.
On the cost of the course.
On the cost of the course, and we reimburse it back to, we want them to serve with us for
Right,
the
for their
3 years.
service.
Currently, we have 2 people, actually Nora Spratt is taking the EMT course, and so is Jim Bernard here. So those are the 2 people that we will plan on reimbursing over the next 3 years.
Right.
About how many new firefighters do we train each year?
For the attack school, it was.
I see John.
I think they plan on sending like 4 people to the firefighter, 1 firefighter.
Okay,
Right,
that's what I come.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Fire equipment, and when I went through, a lot of this is in the bunker gear. Our bunker gear is one, it's at the age where it has to be replaced. We need to get, this is our turnout, yeah. It's at the age where it needs to be replaced. The other issue we are having is we have a few more female people on the department. And typically we have tried to just, hand gear over, which we can still do, except that with some of the female people, they drown in it, so we have had to buy some more petite gear.
Absolutely.
I understand.
I believe we are also buying a little bit more in the forestry and the fire equipment, and that is sort of in turn to the vehicle that we're getting for the one that the association is purchasing,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna need to buy some equipment for that. First responder. And the the new equipment, this is the $2,000 they're buying, gear set. Different. Jack was telling me that rather than putting them in bunker gear, which is like $4,000 a set, they can buy for the first responders, they can buy, because they're not going into a fire, they're typically just going into an incident, so they can get this.
The
So-
application here,
Yes. Yeah.
900 instead of.
thousands, yeah.
Instead of, yeah.
It's great.
So that was sort of the fire department's operating budget. We had, I mean, the next page in this packet, the last time we had talked about, the traffic ordinance officer, you guys had said, yeah, let's leave it the same, and we're gonna, work with.
You know, I'm wondering, fix so many complaints. I'm just wondering if maybe we should just go away with the position and try to figure out something different. I don't.
I mean, just because you budget it doesn't mean that you can't, I mean, as opposed to just, like making a decision right at this moment. It may happen at town meeting. I mean, at town meeting, somebody may say, you know what, let's take that out. But you could, just because it is in the budget doesn't mean that you have to spend it.
Right, yeah, right. I think it warrants a conversation, at least just in terms of what are our goals?
Yeah.
For the position, or what are our parking enforcement goals for the town, and how do we want to achieve those goals? Because
Right.
if we're looking for that position to offset its expense by ticket, then that could be one goal.
Right.
Or if we're looking for it to merely have a presence in the town to try to ensure that everyone is
Right.
doing the right thing, then are we willing to invest in that position, even if the tickets aren't generating the income? And I don't know where we.
I don't know where
lie.
we are.
And that's something you guys can be thinking about. The other thing is, when the pieces all get put together, like we still are waiting on a harbor budget, we don't have that.
Right.
So when I get the harbor budget, we will actually have all of the numbers that I can put into
That'll
the
be good.
format. I will have, the
Good.
revenue numbers, there's still some of them that we're not gonna really know,
Sure.
but at least we're gonna be,
And make your best guess.
we're gonna make our best estimate at it. And, you guys may look at that and you may say, okay, you know what? This is too much to take to the town.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of increase.
going to
There
be
is a
great-
lot of increase here.
And I'm
So you
sorry.
guys may look at that and you may say, you know what, I think we need to whittle some things down.
What, thinking back on your history with the budget, for Castine. Is there an average trend each year in terms of expected increases that if we were to weigh?
There were some years where there was some boards, some boards, some years would say, we want to go into this budget where we don't want to have any mill rate increase. And then there would be other times where they would say, we'd like to try to keep it at 6% or, under 10%, depending upon what they had. I think last year, if you read my finance officer's report, it was either last year or the year before where I said, okay, if you go back 10 years and you look at what has happened between the mill rate between here and here, and then you average it out over the years. I think it was somewhere around a 5% every year. I mean, it kind of, which didn't. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, Amy. We need to have that conversation, and I think that the town needs to have that conversation. I'm not saying that I think the parking enforcement officers should pay their own salary.
Mhm.
But I do believe that if it's going to be a salaried position
Mhm.
as opposed to an hourly position, which made a lot more sense to me, that we need to have a really firm presence. It has to be a good presence.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether we establish certain hours or.
Right, I don't know how we do it, or certain expectations for, say, the first 3 weeks of classes in the fall, just to make sure everybody knows where the boundaries are.
Right.
Or certain expectations, or, during tourist season.
Right.
Certain expectations for those 2-hour parking places where some.
Well, and during
Park
the summer,
all day.
I mean, I think during the school year, I think you can do the first couple of weeks because you have the same people that are here. But in the summertime,
Summer's different.
summer's different because
Every
you
day
have
is
people
there.
coming and going.
Right.
And you can't necessarily say, oh, well, we're gonna do it for the first 3 weeks and then hope everybody will
No,
follow
no,
suit
no,
because you've
summer
got
is
different
all
people,
summer.
right?
Summer is all
Yeah.
summer, and we need, and we have to do things, the select board has to do certain things as well. We have to remind the
Right,
people on Perkins
Right.
about the changes and things like that, but
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
concerned that it's about the consistency.
Right.
I say that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
so yeah, that's something that you guys, I mean, and as I said, once you get the whole, the
Yeah,
warrant as a
once we get
whole,
the
then
budget.
you're. You may have a completely different, then you're gonna have the whole picture and you're gonna see what you're gonna be doing.
Yeah.
The next sheet in here is really just for the, social security, and the main paid family leave for the 3 positions that are in that miscellaneous public safety. It's the animal control officer, the health officer, and the traffic ordinance officer. So that is really the 8.15% of whatever those salary lines are. The animal control officer, what we did, if you remember, she's being paid 2 hours every week. And then we budgeted extra money for when she has, if she has to, spend more time dealing with issues. So we may not spend all of that, but
That's fine.
we've made it available. We then have the reserve accounts, and the fire department has requested to put $200,000 in fire trucks. That, and I mean, I'll be honest, when I'm looking at, 400 for the fire rescue building, 200 for fire trucks, and then 160 in the operating account, and then another $10,000 in capital equipment. I'm thinking that maybe it all can't happen this year. I mean, I'm not saying go back down to 10 in the fire vehicle reserve, but anyways, that would be someplace that I might look at, when we're looking at sort of, what's gonna happen to the mill rate and what's gonna happen to people's individual tax bills.
And the 400,000 is to cover the OPM and.
Right.
and-
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so this is something that.
And I think that wasn't the idea though, for the 400, that it covered these initial costs, but then.
But then
might have
also,
to position the town for debt
we're
service
thinking,
to be
right, we're
similar.
thinking that if we,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Kind of get that structure into the town.
Right.
Yeah.
Fiscally.
Yeah. I think it was gonna be like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was gonna be something like 385 that we would need for the OPM. And then, I mean, but then our, in reality, our debt service is probably gonna be a little over 400. I mean, when I did the 7 million and through the bond bank with the estimate, it was like 432. So I think we were sort of thinking
We
if
just
we,
get it there.
yeah,
That's what I recall. All right, so the fire truck reserve, we have to, we can consider later. But I know that, again, it's another.
yeah. And even, I mean, Jack did tell me, I mean, Randy hasn't been real involved in this budget because recently, he's had this. Jack did tell me that this was an amount that Randy gave him.
It was or was not?
It was
Oh,
an
it
amount that
was,
Randy
okay.
gave him. Jack sort of, I mean, he gets that this is, when you add it all together,
Mhm.
it's a lot of money.
And on the harbor master's boat,
Mhm.
we took out the $600 because we just purchased a new boat.
Well, we haven't done anything yet because we
Yeah,
haven't gotten,
harbor-
we don't have a harbor budget.
Okay, because I was like wondering what, I was.
It's,
thinking, wait,
that is,
why is
that's,
that gone?
complete-
Because
that's completely
harbor-
blank as
we're
opposed to
waiting
a zero, we're waiting
Right.
for a harbor. Yes.
Okay, because we should probably, we've purchased a new boat, but we should probably be building that account back up for the next.
And
boat,
that's,
so.
I know that that was conversation that the harbor committee had is, I think there was some of the committee that said, oh, we've just purchased a boat. And then there was other, well, $600 isn't a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And it keeps it on people's mind and, for the next time around. So I don't know what they're gonna come up with.
They meet tomorrow?
They meet tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I just sent Xander a message because he just sent out his agenda and I didn't see the budget vote on it, so I said budget vote,
Really?
question mark. So I'm thinking,
That's
I
kind of,
think he might have forgot to put it on there, so I was like, I might wanna just say budget. So, yeah, cause I just read his email too, like, oh yeah, we'll put it on the next one, then I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't see it.
the other thing in here, the fire department in their operating budget had requested was that self-insurance for workers' comp to add an additional $5,000 into that.
Could we go back one page, Karen, to the fire vehicle reserve account?
Yep.
And just remind me, because back in June, the balance was $659. Is this what?
No, that was not, what?
Is that right? Cause
No,
think
that
I
is
sent
not
the
right.
numbers last
That
night.
is not right. That was,
Okay.
actually, it should have been 59. I don't know, that 6
Oh,
is probably,
I was like,
probably,
I
is it
was
always in the six?
Flush last night.
No, on the, actually, on the front page, actually,
Yeah.
89.
89, okay, so I was, yeah.
On the front page, I put the balances of each of these accounts.
Okay.
So yeah, that's only 89. And actually, I think it was 159, and then we just spent 80 on the,
Well, that's what I was trying
right,
to make sense
so it
of.
probably was
I'm like,
159 rather than 6, I don't know.
okay, so that's what we think, maybe that was 159, and then the squad car we just spent,
Like 80.
right, because isn't it, it's down to like 40 or 50 or something. I don't know.
It's down
My
to,
math.
yeah, we have 89 in there. So it's,
And we've already paid out for this.
we've already paid, yes, we have,
60.
yeah.
80,
80.
80, that's 80, I don't do that.
And we paid out for the squad car.
We have, yeah. Where Jack was, I think there's still, my understanding is squad car is still in Canada and they were supposed to pick it up, but I think they're having a little problem because of tariffs. So we're trying to figure out whether we're gonna have to pay more money for it, although we had a signed contract, so I'm hoping not.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, but we're waiting for it to cross the border. Or something goes to get it.
Question, are we ready for other things? Because we need 5,000 for that updated study for the infrastructure.
That will come in capital accounts?
I don't know where you wanna put it.
Capital
so bring it up. So yeah, so
Capital accounts.
5,000, the updated town infrastructure study. That's what I'm getting, and then I sent you guys all an email. after
I
the
would pay
meeting
for
last
that
night.
out of the, I would pay for that out of the roads and infrastructure account.
Okay.
That we already have, and we
Okay,
right now,
And we can just tell them to do that out of the current budget if we want
Yeah.
to.
and
Okay,
I
all
mean, right,
Okay.
yeah.
right, that's good. And then the PFAS stuff,
Yes,
I
the
did that
PFAS, which
research
I actually
last
made
night.
myself a note last night, because I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I finally found it, and I sent it out to you all, it was like 14, but I think we might wanna budget 15 for that. And I think we said we wanted a separate article for that
that's
one.
what, that was my understanding, is that we didn't wanna pay for it out of the building fund. We wanted to have a separate
Right.
article so that people could decide whether or not they wanted to pay to have it, to have more testing done. I mean, some people may say, it's there.
Some people are gonna say, what are we gonna do if it is, it's not gonna matter, so
Right,
we don't wanna do it.
right.
Yeah, I heard both sides.
Yeah, so I think it was 14, but I'm thinking since it's gonna be several months later, 15,000 would be a more comfortable amount.
Yeah.
Can you remind me on the PFAS testing, because it was a while since we spoke of it. I think at that time we had conversations about, exploring that Battle Avenue site north of PFAS.
Yeah.
We could find, did we also discuss exploring other areas of town, like of town property, or was the discussion limited to just the battle axe?
I think what you're thinking is, with PFAS testing, we're not under any mandates to test it every year. But we do anyways for our water sources.
Through the waters.
Through the water budget, right,
Right.
so really, we just, and I think we're gonna do a second round. And if we're clear on a PFAS, we satisfy whatever the EPA
Right.
standard is.
Okay,
The utility board budgeted, I don't know, a couple of years back, whatever, I think when they found this PFAS on the golf course or something. To do it every year, just to stay ahead of it and be careful.
And we
So
had,
that's,
and we
yeah.
had the testing, we actually got the bill for the testing just less than a month ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, it takes a while to do the test, so it was taken probably 2 or 3 months ago. And all of our nothing was detected in any of our sources.
Drinking water is fine.
So, and then we also do the sewer,
Right.
the
Yeah.
outflow.
That does.
And that, and I mean, we expect it to have, because whatever people put down their sinks or their toilets or whatever, and pretty much all cleaning products have it in it, is going down to the sewer plant, so. You know, we're,
And so also, Amy, related to that, the PFAS testing is really in two parts, right? So it was the, based on the results preliminary evaluation, they recommend further assessment of PFAS impacted groundwater. Discovered at the proposed Battle Ave Fire Station site, potential PFAS sources up gradient of the Battle Avenue pond should be completed in a tiered approach. The first is to confirm PFAS detected in the site. Groundwater can be replicated with another sampling event, which would include resampling 3 groundwater monitoring wells that were sampled during the prelim hydrogeologic evaluation. CV Mahar would also collect 3 superficial soil samples with shovels to evaluate PFAS is present in superficial loam at the property. We'd also collect a sample of the driller's filter sand that was used during the construction of the groundwater monitoring wells and submit the sand sample lab analysis. PFAS to evaluate if material equipment used during the preliminary evaluation inadvertently introduced PFAS from the groundwater samples. That work is estimated at 10,000 will be completed in 1 day and summarized in a brief report. The next step of the tiered process would be dependent on whether PFAS impacted groundwater is replicated with a recommended additional sampling event and the PFAS impacted superficial soil or driller's filter are identified at the site. However, next steps would likely involve a paper study to locate PFAS up gradient of the Battle Ave ponds, then complete additional drilling to sample and groundwater to evaluate identified PFAS sources. That's $4,000 for the study and figures on that. So that may not be necessary if they can't replicate it or find it, because then they'll assume it was contaminated into the initial testing
It might just
process.
be 10.
Right,
but you've
but
got
the
a
whole
budget,
thing
you've
is
got a budget,
15,
right?
right?
Let's do 15.
Because they wanna, if they do identify it, they wanna try to identify where it's actually
Right,
coming from in order to maybe abate it.
exactly, okay.
Yeah.
And so.
The other thing that we did in capital projects was, I think we had the separate items, I did a new summary sheet, and that was because we took off the extra for the. Initially, we had something there thinking we might do additional money for sheriff.
Oh,
But then we decided that we were gonna try the traffic calming first
right.
and not do that. But, and so in the capital projects, first off, the fire department has requested $10,000 in capital equipment, and that actually is sort of an offshoot from what we did last year when they plan on doing it every year, and that was the purchase of future SCBA packs, if you remember. Because those will come up for renewal, so the idea was to put like $10,000 a year in there, and then when they come up, then we have enough money, because those are like, you know, $50,000 or something, and they need to be, right? So there was that. The other thing is that you have a copy of an email that came in from Central Maine Pyrotechnics.
Yeah, so
Um,
fireworks are going up.
so, yeah, I took that up. You know, if we wanna have the same fireworks show that we have had, and it's also their minimum price show. We're gonna need to add the town for $11,000 this year, so. Anyways,
Where do I find, I know I have this, but where do I find the fireworks in here?
It's in
What
capital.
category?
capital.
It's in capital?
Yep. If-
All right,
if you
that's
go
where I am.
down- Yep, so go right here,
So,
go down the page,
Oh, there it is right there.
there it is
I was
right there.
I swear I looked above and below it. I did not see the fireworks
so
anywhere.
Karen, when we consider what the library is easing,
Mhm,
so when we consider that,
mhm.
is that money that we can put toward things like fireworks and stuff?
Well, yeah, last year, there was I think there was about $138,000 that came from taxation, so that will be
That we
easing,
can ease.
that will be eased up. However, I mean, you know, if you look, I mean, our county taxes went up by $50,000. I mean, we added in this CED position for
Yeah.
32, I mean, you know, we have added way more than that in extra things already. You know, some of them beyond our control, but I mean, some of them where we're, you know, we did.
Fire building and the fire truck.
Right, I mean, we've added, you know, traffic calming, sidewalk plowing, I mean, these are all new things that have been added in there,
Right.
which has been
And it's
eaten away very quickly.
Yeah.
So
It's just-
that's why I say once, you know, once we get the
Okay.
harbor thing and we have everything together, and I'm gonna kind of start putting that together, I mean, I have sort of already, I also got the school budget, I told, I think Amy, you didn't, Roberta came in yesterday afternoon, we got the school budget. Their budget is up about 10%, I think,
Is it-
and, you know, it's about another $122,000 from taxation. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, 100 here, 100 there, I mean, when I sort of add things up in my mind, I'm like, wow, we're.
Yeah, it does, it starts to add. up.
Yeah, I mean, it's added up a lot. So once you finally have that all put into one, that may be a point where you guys are gonna have to decide, is this really
Right.
what we wanna take to the town?
When you have all that ready to
Mhm.
present to us, then what's our timeline? How much time do we have to look at that before you have to go? to
Not
the
much.
printer?
We're
Well,
right.
is it
Next
3 days? Is it
Next
10
week,
days?
yeah.
Like,
Well,
what are we
we've-
looking at
we
for
have-
some of those
We've been
decisions?
able to get another week or so out of the printer,
Okay, good.
so, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, we don't, so we're probably into like April 10th.
Okay. All right,
To the printer?
to the printer.
So, for example, my guess is that we are going to try to have on your April 7th. Select board meeting will be where you will need to approve the warrant for town meeting, because that has to be approved in an open meeting by you.
Okay. So
Okay.
April
And if it
7th.
doesn't happen there, if you guys are still undecided about some items, then you may need to have a special meeting to specifically approve the warrant to go to town
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, so before April 7th.
We
Are
have-
we looking at like, would next week be a possibility for us to receive the full warrant from you? Would we have all that information?
Well, I'm not getting the harbor until
Hopefully Thursday.
hopefully Thursday.
Right, today's.
And then I'm gonna,
Tuesday.
and then of course, you guys, I mean, technically you guys would be looking at that. I can put their
Yeah.
request in there. And then it's really a matter of, is there enough hours in the day for me to physically input it?
That's what I'm
all?
asking, what's
Yeah.
reasonable,
Yeah.
when,
I
so
mean,
that
it
we
may-
can kind of think
It
about
may or may not, I mean, I don't know if it can happen because we have a budget meeting Monday.
Monday's our budget meeting, right,
right.
Monday morning. Okay.
I probably will not, there's probably not enough hours in the day between now and then
Right.
for me to have it, but
Yeah.
yes, by later in the week. And so what I probably would do is I probably would just send you guys a draft.
Okay, so we'll meet Monday, which is the 24th, and then we have the following week is the
So the 31st,
we
and
have
so the
following
31st might
as well.
actually be another
Another day. to meet.
day to meet, to really go through the warrant.
Maybe what we do there is instead of regular work session, we just do a budget session.
For a while.
Yeah, and that's just
Yeah,
okay,
Yeah.
so the 31st or. well,
31st is a Monday.
And we can do it early.
I was trying to think the 31st, that's a regularly scheduled meeting.
No, it's not,
Yeah.
because that's the 5th Monday, you guys have
Oh.
the 1st and the 3rd.
Oh, okay, I was thinking every other.
I probably will have you guys sign up and do pay bills that one too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing is that
Yeah.
and then of course, there's this little thing called quarterly water bills that have to be going out that same time, so there are a few other things that have to be done.
Time are we doing Monday for the budget?
30.
7:30.
Okay, I'll just make sure I had that.
So if we did the 31st.
Yeah.
Do you wanna do 7:30 in the morning or do you wanna do afternoon?
Both. Let me see, well, there's that, right? Let's see what else I've got going on.
I'd rather do earlier because it's my husband's birthday and I kind of like to make him dinner that night, but, because we don't do much else. But,
Yeah, no, I can,
do
I can
7:30.
do, I can do the morning.
Okay.
Should we do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
sorry, Derek.
It's all right, I just got a battle with Megan, it's all right.
You can always spend the night here.
Right, well, I was gonna say, if I look a little disheveled, she kicked me out of the bathroom, cause it was her time.
Get you a card. Okay, we can do that, that's fine. And that actually is good because if we need more time that we have.
Then we've got the week to,
So
yeah.
we're set up and
Yeah.
everything.
I
Okay,
get that, really, yes.
31st. Okay.
And you know, Karen, I'm also thinking a sidewalk thing, if we really get the brush thing, we're probably gonna be up higher than that, 25, just so you know.
And then on the sidewalk plowing thing too, we need a building to store.
Mhm.
the
Right,
plow.
right,
Yeah.
so that's gonna be probably 35, 40 by the time we're done. And is that gonna be controversial, put that out back of here?
Up here, I don't think putting a building in the back of here would be.
No, nobody will see it,
Right,
so it won't require historic preservation.
okay,
It will just be.
It'll just be
right,
It'll be-
and I
But we'll
think that's
have
gonna
to-
be like $8,000 something.
so I mean, do you
I
want me to
just saw
sort
one
of put a
tweet
line through
that
this
looked
and
like it
put
would work
40
at
for-
Lowe's.
For the
I
sidewalk.
mean,
Or 35, or 40, I guess, because that's what Derek.
I think, well, cause I think with the attachments, if we have V-plow, snow blower. And the little brush broom, and then that's fine, but I found out you need to get the PTO, which is another 400
Oh,
to
right.
run
Right,
the snow blower. So, and then there's a bunch of other little attachments, by the time I started adding them up, I'm like, geez, we're gonna be up there a little higher,
so it's
so.
40, so we should put 40
Right.
with the building.
Cause we don't have our own
And-
little
the other thing
Um,
which I'll throw out there.
brush, right?
The other
Cause
thing
we start sanding our sidewalks, so I'm gonna have a lot
Yeah.
of brushing to do.
The
too,
other thing that I'll
so
throw out there, which is when I saw the email about the dry hydrant. We need to know
Yeah,
there's another,
The
and we need
cost, yeah.
to know
The giant-
what the
yeah.
cost of
that's
that.
usually the valves and,
Yeah.
so they should, hopefully can put it together fairly quick.
Karen, if I can go back to our talk about the full review,
Mhm,
we did the full budget.
mhm.
When you're able to give that to us, and I don't know, this is my first time at this, I don't know what else you might provide, but. At that same time, are you able to provide us an assessment of how, like, if nothing were changed, what the mill rate would look
Yes.
like, and what it would look like, what per thousand?
Yes. Yeah.
That way.
I mean, one of the
Some more
things that we
context.
already, that I did a little bit earlier on, we're saying, if our assessment stays the same, and that's usually what I do.
Right.
Because to tell you the truth, a majority of our building permits, the big one was at the academy, which is tax exempt, so that doesn't affect us anyways, and then the majority of the other ones, I don't, it'll give us a little bit more value, but not much. And so, for every $100,000, remember I gave you the breakdown for a property valued at 250, one at 500 and one at 750. So for a property valued at $250,000, for every $100,000 that we go up,
Mhm.
for a property valued at 250, that would increase their tax bill by $63.75. For a $500,000 property, it's $127.50. For a $750,000 property, it's $191.25. So I mean, that's sort of a, and yes, I will,
That just
I
helps
will
get
bring
through
that
Thank you.
back around, but yes, typically what I do is I'll say, okay, if this, and I also write that in my finance officer's report for everybody to read in town meeting, you know, if the budget is approved as written, this is what you could expect to happen to your tax bill.
Great,
I
thank
just
you.
I want to ask about hardware hardware, software is increased. Hopefully we get that.
And that, remember,
That
part
was-
of website,
Yeah.
GIS,
Yeah.
a new phone system
Just
if
wanted
need be.
To
Yeah,
make sure that that was there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and Sue actually has she has a call. They're gonna give her a demo, from a website provider that has done a number of websites in the state of Maine. And they sent her which one she's actually gonna look at the websites. And I think she's got that next week. She's got a, you know, like an hour-long call with them, but she was gonna look at the websites that they gave her. But yeah, she came in and she said, hey, she said, what's, you know, are we, and I said, yeah, we are putting some money in. She said, okay, she said, because if we're not, I don't wanna waste
Yeah.
my time or theirs. So she's gonna look at those.
Can I ask a question on the capital projects
Mhm.
under the library,
Mhm.
capital projects for 150
Mhm.
for next year? Does that money come from the endowment?
That all
or
comes
does that
from the
come-
endowment.
Okay, but we put it on this budget,
It
even though
has
it
to be.
doesn't
It has
come
to
out of
be.
taxation?
Any money
Okay.
that is being spent has to be put,
Yeah.
so that article will say, you know, shall the town approve $150,000 to
Yeah.
come from the library endowment?
Got it, okay, got it.
Same thing with when we get to the library operating, you know, the library trustees have said for this year, they will take
I'm
full
so
operating.
grateful to them for doing that this year.
Absolutely.
Well,
It's huge. It's a-
I think, I mean, it's there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a.
Yeah.
And it's not biting into the capital and
it's great. Okay.
and I guess the other thing that we're gonna, and Derek, I mean, probably you will, you know, as we're working on the warrant, we are going to need to know, Sue and I are gonna need to know all of the additional, you know, articles. I mean, one, we know there's some zoning ordinance changes too, you know, you kind of reminded us about the, rental ordinance. So we're gonna need
Right.
to know,
And then I got
What-
that multi-year, contract.
yeah, the
thing.
multi-year contract, I had already sort of put
Question.
I had
Yeah.
put something in there, you know, placeholder for that, but we're gonna need to know. So if there's any other articles that you guys are saying, ooh, this was on there to do, you know, even though it may not be a money article, we need to know about that.
So we had our other revenue, we were looking at increasing Fort Madison and
Mhm.
back shore and
Mhm.
things like that, and we forgot to talk about that yesterday. That's so important. So I forgot to put it on the agenda. So we need to figure out
Mhm.
next Monday, what are those,
Mhm.
what exactly are those increases
Right.
going to be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the revenue side.
And we've already, you know, started having, you know, some people who have started making them, and I don't know, you know, you've got to decide, you know, if somebody has already
If they've already
requested
done it.
something, and for example, we also had, you know, like for liquor license renewals, I mean, we charge $25 for liquor license renewal, I mean, and it's been that same fee for as long as Sue and I have been here. So I mean, I think that we could easily, you know, that can go up. We've already, I mean, we actually got the Pentagoets, theirs technically doesn't expire until I think July, but they put in for it now. I mean, if they've already put in for it now, my guess would be is that they'll get another year at the 25, but, you know, I
Would
think
you up that to 50?
I would.
I think so.
I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable, and I mean, they're paying the state
Yeah.
like $2,000 for their liquor license.
Yes, but if paying us
Um,
50 is not.
Yeah. there any, I mean. Any other questions or anything anybody wants?
Not at this moment. I think once we see it all,
I know,
yeah.
Yeah.
That would be that.
and as I said, I mean, I started, I've started inputting the town portion of the warrant into the warrant. I started doing that a while ago with, what I had. I got the school on Friday, which I didn't get that till Friday afternoon, so I mean, I'm gonna be sort of, any spare minutes, that's what I'm gonna be doing.
Well, thank you for all this guidance.
Okay.
Very, very useful.
Are you gonna have, when we look at the budget, once it's kind of together, like just a spreadsheet, so all of it, so we can just look at standards rather than flipping through this? Like a master sheet?
We can, I mean, the other thing that we can do is we can just have each of the summary sheets.
Oh, that
I mean,
would work too.
that's.
I just,
Just take each of the
having them all
summary sheets and do
consolidated would
that.
be good, yeah,
I mean, there's also, I mean, there's in the warrant, it's really that too.
Right.
It's just, and I mean, if you want me to put together a different document,
that's.
that'll take
I
more
don't want- I
time,
was gonna say, I
so.
don't wanna
I'm
like
thinking that
stretch
we
it out
can
doing it.
probably just, take what we've got, and yes, it may be 5 or 6 sheets long. But it'll all, be there and,
Be good to see it all.
I do wanna
Right.
ask, just quick. And I will admit that I do not have a firm grasp on this entire. I get that, it's just this other thing.
right,
At LPC, we've been talking a lot about foreclosed properties and the way that the state sort of changes the rules.
Mhm.
And it was brought up that municipalities should probably have some sort of a reserve account. For foreclosed properties. I don't know if we're at a place where we need to do that. I don't know if we have properties that we know.
do you
of.
wanna know how many properties have been
I don't think
foreclosed
we
for
do.
as long as I have been here?
We don't, do we? Zero.
Zero.
Okay, then we are fine. Then
Zero.
Let's not do it. Yeah, I just.
Is
they-
that
they-
for the new real estate expenses and all that stuff?
They
that
were
have
bringing
going
this
on?
up, yeah,
Yeah.
because I guess it used to be that if a town foreclosed on a property and then did all of the work and sold the property, the town kept the proceeds, and now the town has to reimburse the proceeds to the state.
No,
No,
Or do they
back
go
to the
back
homeowner.
To the homeowner.
Right.
to the homeowner.
Yeah, to the.
So
homeowner.
essentially,
So
we're
the
becoming,
homeowner
we are
should
becoming a real estate agent,
Yeah.
really.
go Upon whom they foreclosed.
And then renovated them.
Yeah, so it's a very strange thing, the way that they did it, so.
Well, it's a Supreme Court case, that's the problem.
Sorry, yeah. So I just wanted to ask, so if we've done none, I think we just don't worry about this.
Yeah. I mean,
Just don't get
if
it.
we do end up foreclosing
Don't do it.
and we do end up having to go through.
Yeah.
We've had, well, there was one that we could have foreclosed upon, but we chose not to because it was a property that. Because we were afraid that,
Right,
it could be libelous to us, and we have that option. I
right.
mean, that is an option, is that, we can say, you know what, we don't want to, and then if it ever does sell. Then we still have a lien on it, so we can still take it back, but we can just say, you know what, we're not gonna foreclose upon it. We had one that was like that, and I mean, it ended up all working out and.
Okay, I just wanted to ask because I
Yeah.
hear about these things and I hear about what other towns have gone through. And
Yeah, there's other towns there's other towns that do a fair amount in foreclosed properties, and I mean, we have just been,
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fortune.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Good. All right, well, thank you. Here's a motion to adjourn. Second, all there, hi, let's do it.
8:27.
Bye.